with the collapse of those talks that seemed so close to ending the government shutdown and lifting the debt ceiling. With Washington seemingly paralyzed, individual states are now taking action, opening their own checkbooks to get their own landmarks and parks open again. You're looking live at the Statue of Liberty, which will reopen this morning to grateful tourists from around the world. The Grand Canyon opened up yesterday for the next week at least, and Utah has reopened 8 national parks. ABC's John Carl is at the White House. John, as we go on the air this morning, what is the up-to-the-minute state of play in these negotiations to finally end this thing?
Well, Dan, it is now up to the Senate leaders, Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid. These are two men who, by the way, have barely been on speaking terms for the past couple of months to find a resolution to this. They talked yesterday. They talked for some time yesterday. They are trying to come to agreement on a deal that would keep the government running and postpone default until January 31st. That would be a government spending bill and an increase to the nation's borrowing authority. But Republicans have given up almost everything that they originally started demanding. There are no changes to Obamacare that are even on the table right now. As you recall, that was what started this whole mess. But Dan, the bottom line right now is talks have broken down over this. Democrats want to see some spending increases as part of this. In other words, Democrats are pushing to undo some of the cuts that were put in place under the so-called sequester as part of the government funding for this temporary reopening. Dan, it doesn't look very good right now, but they are at least talking, so that is a positive sign.
And there's another potential snag. If, hypothetically, this deal gets cut on the Senate side, when they send it over to the House, where the Tea Party is very strong, what are the odds that it'll be passed there?
Oh yeah, the House. That's right. I mean, this is the situation. Speaker John Boehner, who, as we were all talking about, Friday, was talking with the president, trying to negotiate something with the president. He has been cut out of this. So basically, it's going to be up to the House to either take or leave whatever agreement comes out of the Senate, assuming an agreement comes out. There is no guarantee it will pass there. Although my sense, Dan, is that Speaker of the House Boehner will, at the very least, allow a vote on whatever comes out of the Senate.
And before he wouldn't even allow that, maybe some progress, John. Thank you. And for more on this, let's bring in George Stephanopoulos, who is hosting This Week later on this morning. And a lot of people watch this and see what's going on in Washington and think it's out of this world as well. What happened over the weekend? We were hearing words like progress, constructive, and now all of a sudden things
deja vu all over again. The same thing that's happened in previous negotiations. The president started to work something out with House Republicans, but House Speaker John Boehner couldn't agree and couldn't sell it to his conference. So everything goes back to the Senate. And to pick up what John just said right there, if Senator Reid and Senator McConnell are able to come to a deal, there's only one viable path to solving this, and that is to jam it through the House of Representatives. Speaker Boehner would have to allow a vote on something that is almost certain not to get a majority of his caucus conference behind it. It would have to be passed with Democratic votes. It is something he has been unwilling to do in the past. Has only done it in extreme circumstances. It looks like that's what he would have to do now, and that's assuming a deal in the Senate.
Stepping away from all of the toing and froing in Washington, let's assume that they don't lift the debt ceiling by Thursday. How much of an impact is that likely to have on the rest of us innocent bystanders?
It could be huge. I mean, the truth is, though, that we don't know because we've never seen it before. It's never happened in American history. What the Treasury Secretary and others in the business community have warned is 3 levels of effects. Number one, credit markets could freeze, which would lead to a huge drop in the stock market. It affects just about everyone's 401k. Number two, at the end of this month, direct payments from the government have to be made in Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, veterans, military pay. They could all be put at risk during the month of October. And then there's the overall impact on the economy, consumer confidence. Most economists believe that if this were prolonged for any period of time, there would be a huge drop in economic growth, which would eventually affect jobs. So the impact could be absolutely catastrophic.
This is not a game.
No, and some people out there saying that the 17th may not be actually the date that we hit the debt
ceiling.
It could be November 1st,
yeah.
So this may not be solved in the next couple of days either. All right, George, thank you. And George, we'll have the latest on efforts to end the government shutdown coming up later on ABC's This Week.